Quaid Azam, Part 236. Cripps emphasized that the existing divergence of the Indian opinion only inflamed the situation and reasoned the urgent necessity of finding a line of agreement to work from that. This, for the moment, remained Cripps' contribution to the Indian problem, for within days of becoming Prime Minister in May 1940, itself, Cripps was sent to Moscow, that is, where he remained as ambassador until the January 1942. Churchill wanted a left-wing conciliator then by the Britain's voice in Moscow, for Stalin was an invaluable wartime ally. But did Churchill also want India and Cripps out of the way, at least while he fought a life and death war against Germany? The course of events in Europe, disastrous to start with, were a convincing enough deterrent to provoking any additional problems or revolutionary movements in India. The goal instead became enlisting cooperation from their subcontinental country and of course of the Indian leadership too in the war effort. On 2 June 1940, Emery proposed to Linlithgow that Britain should concede India's right to frame its own constitution, subject of course to suitable arrangements being made for the discharge of British responsibilities, and provided the Indian parties agreed to the formulation that a constituent assembly could be set up after the war. Linlithgow had his doubts, but Emery persisted, possibly after the war. Linlithgow had his doubts, but Emery persisted, possibly because perhaps he had a better feel of the war situation. This was despite his apprehension that convincing Churchill's war cabinet about yet another meaningful initiative for India was not going to be at all easy. Emery was working for full dominion status post the war, provided India's political leadership agreed upon a constitution, counting upon the support of some of the Labour members of the war cabinet to overcome difficulties with Churchill and Simon. However, when the cabinet met on 12 July 1940, Churchill opposed any declaration of intent, and his colonial secretary, Lord Lloyd, abhorred any move that might bring together the Hindus and Muslims against Britain. Churchill then took matters in his own hands, cabling Linlithgow direct questioning the wisdom of any declaration when the invasion of Britain seemed imminent, rendering a parliamentary discussion of the issues involved in such a far-reaching departure impossible. It is remarkable that even in such a war stressed Britain in the cabinet in London spent so much time and effort on India and kept high aspect of parliamentary propriety too. Linlithgow now took yet another U-turn, replying rather objectively to Churchill that he had been led by Emery's entreaties in asking for the cabinet's vote about the declaration that went beyond all past statements. Now that he knew the cabinet's reservations, he would send home a fresh draft. It would still concede the Britain's object was dominion status within a year of the end of the war, and that Indians should frame their own constitution, but it would play down the change of approach, emphasize Britain's obligation, and omit any reference to a treaty. That had lost point. The last point was the most serious loss, for it had, when first mooted, implied equality of the status between Britain and an Indian dominion as equal signatories to a treaty.